The call came at 9:15 p.m. on a Tuesday that would reshape everything. My sister Maria's voice cut through the static, sharp and urgent. "Where do you think your husband is right now, Elena?" I glanced at the empty coffee cup beside me, still warm from David's hurried departure an hour earlier. "Emergency client meeting in Chicago," I replied automatically. "He'll be back Friday." The silence stretched like a taut wire before she delivered the blow. "He's 3 blocks from my apartment in Miami, Elena. At the Ocean View Hotel, room 412. With a redhead who isn't you." My world tilted, but I didn't fall. "Not yet." "Are you certain?" I asked, my voice steady as glass. "I'm looking at them through the restaurant window right now. She's wearing the diamond bracelet you've been admiring in that jewelry store downtown. We'd built our life on what I thought was solid ground. 7 years of marriage, a beautiful home in Riverside, joint dreams of children and growing old together. David was charming, ambitious, always 3 steps ahead in business. I was the supportive wife, the one who held everything together while he chased bigger deals and brighter futures. But foundations crack slowly, then all at once. The late-night calls he'd take in the garage. Credit card statements with charges I didn't recognize. Weekend conferences that somehow never had any photos or colleagues to mention afterward. The cologne scent on his shirts. Expensive, unfamiliar. I'd convinced myself I was paranoid, that love meant trusting despite the doubts. Maria had been watching for months. As a private investigator, she recognized the patterns I'd been too close to see. "Her name is Catherine Walsh," she continued. "Marketing executive. They've been meeting for 6 months. He's been using the joint account for everything. Hotels, dinners, even bought her a car." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Instead, I opened my laptop and began working with surgical precision. First, I transferred half of our joint savings into my personal account, my legal right as co-owner. Then I contacted our financial advisor and froze David's access to our investment portfolios pending routine security verification. Next, I called Maria back. "I need you to keep watching them. Document everything. Photos, receipts, timeline." She understood immediately. "You're building a case." Not just a case. I was constructing his downfall, piece by methodical piece. I spent the night researching Catherine Walsh. Social media profiles, employment history, relationship status. She was recently divorced, looking for stability, probably had no idea David was married. By dawn I had her work email, her schedule, her favorite coffee shop. Knowledge was becoming my weapon. Thursday morning I implemented phase 2. I sent Catherine an anonymous email with a simple message. Ask David about his wife Elena and their house on Maple Street. Ask him about the wedding photos on his home office desk. I attached a single photo, David and me from last month's anniversary dinner. His wedding ring clearly visible. Then I booked a flight to Miami, arriving Friday afternoon. Maria met me at the hotel, her camera equipment ready. "They're in the pool area," she whispered. "She's been crying. He's been on his phone non-stop, probably trying to reach you." I watched from the lobby bar as my husband's carefully constructed lie collapsed in real time. Catherine was gesturing angrily, her voice carrying across the water. David looked desperate, reaching for her hand as she pulled away. When she finally walked off, leaving him alone by the pool, I felt the first spark of satisfaction. I didn't approach David immediately. Instead, I walked directly to Catherine at the hotel's coffee shop, where she sat staring at her untouched latte. "You must be Catherine," I said calmly, settling into the chair across from her. Her face went white. "I'm Elena, David's wife." To her credit, she didn't run. "I had no idea," she whispered. "He told me he was divorced, that it was finalized last year." I believed her. The pain in her eyes was genuine. She was another victim of David's elaborate deception. "He's quite convincing," I agreed. "That's how he sold me on marriage 7 years ago." We talked for an hour. She showed me text messages, photos, promises he'd made about their future together. He'd used the same lines on her that he'd once used on me. When David finally appeared, searching frantically, he found us sitting together like old friends. The color drained from his face as he approached our table. "Elena, I can explain." I held up a hand, cutting him off. "No need. Catherine and I have been having a lovely conversation." 7 years, I said quietly, standing to face him. 7 years of marriage and 6 months of lies. You used our money to finance your affair. You used our home as your alibi. You used my trust as your cover story. David started his familiar routine. The charm, the excuses, the manipulation. But something had changed. His words had no power anymore. "I never stopped loving you," he pleaded. "This was just a mistake, a moment of weakness." I looked at Catherine, who was gathering her things with dignity intact. Then I looked back at my husband. "You know what, David? You're right. This was a mistake. But it wasn't a moment. It was a choice. You made it every day for 6 months." I handed him an envelope containing photos Maria had taken, copies of financial records, and one more thing. Divorce papers I'd had prepared before leaving home. "You'll find everything documented there. My lawyer will be in touch." The aftermath was swift and merciless. The prenuptial agreement David had insisted on, for protection, worked perfectly. In my favor. His affair voided his rights to spousal support and half the assets. The house remained mine, along with most of our investments. Catherine and I exchanged numbers before parting ways. Not as friends exactly, but as allies who'd survived the same storm. She later testified in the divorce proceedings, providing crucial evidence of David's deception. David tried calling, texting, showing up at my work. But I'd learned something powerful in that Miami hotel. Sometimes the most devastating response is no response at all. Silence became my shield and my sword. 3 months later, I received the final divorce decree. David moved to another city. His reputation in our social circle permanently tarnished. Catherine started her own marketing firm and sent me a beautiful plant for my birthday. A small gesture that meant everything. I kept our house but changed everything about it. New paint, new furniture, new energy. I planted a garden in the backyard where David used to park his car. I learned that rebuilding doesn't require anyone else's permission. The silence I chose wasn't empty. It was full of possibility, self-respect, and hard-won wisdom. David had gambled our marriage on a 6-month fling and lost everything. I'd gambled on myself and won back my life. Sometimes the storm isn't the loud, destructive kind. Sometimes it's quiet, precise, and absolutely unstoppable.